The plains stretched wide and unforgiving, a sea of dust and brittle grass rolling beneath a sun that showed no mercy. Eli Mercer rode alone, his horse's hooves thudding softly against the dry earth, the sound swallowed by wind and distance. Ranch fences leaned like tired men, posts half buried in sand, wire humming low in the heat. This land had a way of stripping a man down to what he truly was. Eli had learned that lesson the hard way. He was riding back from the north pasture when he saw her. She lay near a dried arroyo, barely moving, her dark hair tangled with dust, her clothing torn by mesquite thorns. An Apache woman. Even at a distance, he knew what she was and what that meant. The territory had been bleeding for years, raids, retaliations, graves without names. Men like Eli were taught to keep their hands close to their guns and their hearts locked tight. His horse snorted, uneasy. Eli slowed, fingers brushing the worn grip of his revolver. Every instinct told him to ride on. Kindness out here could get a man killed. But something in the way she tried and failed to rise stopped him cold. She was wounded, bad. He dismounted slowly, boots crunching in the dust. When she stirred, her eyes snapped open sharp despite the pain. They locked onto him with a look that wasn't fear, but defiance. Eli raised his hands, palms open. "I ain't here to harm you," he said quietly, the wind nearly stealing his words. She didn't answer. Her hand twitched toward a knife that wasn't there anymore. Blood soaked her side. Eli swallowed. Helping her would mark him. If the ranch hands saw, if the town found out, if the Apaches learned who he was. Still, he tore a strip from his shirt and knelt. That was the moment everything changed. The ranch buzzed with unease. Eli kept her hidden in the old tack shed, tending the wound by lantern light. She never spoke her name, but her eyes followed him, studying, measuring. Trust did not come easy between enemies raised on blood-soaked history. Word spread fast in frontier towns, and it spread faster when money got involved. Silas Crow arrived 3 days later. Crow was a bounty hunter with dead eyes and a smile carved from cruelty. He rode in with 2 hired guns and a wanted poster flapping against his saddle. "Apache woman, alive or dead." Price stamped bold across the page. Eli felt the noose tighten. Crow smelled secrets the way wolves smelled weakness. He watched Eli too closely, asked too many questions, and when he mentioned burned ranches and stolen cattle, his gaze flicked toward the tack shed. That night, Eli stood alone on the porch, rifle in hand, the plains whispering warnings. Inside the shed, the woman waited, no longer helpless, no longer just a choice. She was a line in the sand. When Crow made his move, it was violent and fast. Gunfire split the dark. Horses screamed. The woman fought beside Eli, fierce and silent, moving like the land itself. When dawn came, bodies lay cooling in the dust, and Crow was gone, wounded but alive. Eli knew what that meant. There would be no turning back now. The final reckoning came beneath a sky heavy with storm clouds. The Apache band arrived at dusk, riders cresting the hills like ghosts. Eli stood unarmed, dust swirling around his boots, heart pounding loud enough to drown the thunder. She stepped forward then. She spoke for him, not with softness but with truth. She told them what he had done, what he had risked, what mercy had cost him. And when Silas Crow returned, desperate, broken, seeking one last payday, he found himself alone against forces he never understood. The plains bore witness as violence met justice. When it was over, the land felt quieter, changed. She left before sunrise. No promises, no kisses. Just a final look that said some bonds don't need words. And some choices echo longer than gunfire. Eli returned to his ranch a different man, carrying a truth the frontier rarely allowed. Kindness could survive even here. But it never came without consequence. The plains never forgot blood. Weeks had passed since the Apache riders vanished into the horizon. Yet Eli Mercer still felt them in the wind, in the way the grass leaned, in the restless stomp of his horse at dusk. The ranch looked the same, sun-bleached boards, sagging fences, cattle drifting slow through dust, but something underneath had shifted, like the earth itself had been disturbed and hadn't settled back right. Kindness left marks deeper than bullets. Eli worked harder than ever. Dawn found him mending wire, Noon caught him riding fence. Nights were spent awake on the porch, rifle across his knees, eyes scanning shadows that refused to stay still. Word had spread. Some men tipped their hats differently now. Others wouldn't meet his gaze at all. In frontier towns, mercy was remembered longer than violence. The first trouble came quietly. A rider arrived from the east, young, nervous, smelling of fear and sweat. He carried news wrapped in half-truths and panic. Ranches burned, cattle stolen. Men blaming Apaches again, and Eli's name spoken low like a curse. "You're being watched," the boy said. "Folks say you chose sides." Eli didn't answer. He didn't need to. Choosing mercy had already chosen for him. That night, fire bloomed on the horizon. Not close, but close enough. Eli rode toward it alone. The burned ranch lay gutted, its timbers blackened like bones picked clean. Her family's life reduced to ash and silence. But Eli saw what others wouldn't. Tracks too clean. Boot prints mixed with hoof marks meant to confuse. This wasn't Apache work. It was Crow's kind of violence. Men who wore hatred like a uniform and needed someone to blame. And Crow was still alive? Eli followed the trail for 2 days, sleeping in the saddle, eating dust and dried meat. On the third night he found the camp. 5 men, whiskey, stolen cattle, and Silas Crow sitting by the fire, his arm bound, his smile meaner than ever. "You just don't learn," Crow said, standing slow. "Kindness turned you soft." Eli dismounted. "No," he said. "It taught me what needs killing." The fight was brutal and fast. No speeches, no honor. Just gunfire tearing through night air and men dropping into dirt. They'd poisoned themselves. Crow tried to run. He always did. Eli ended it. When dawn came, the plains were quiet again, but not peaceful. Because as Eli turned back toward home, he saw riders on the ridge. Apache riders. She was with them. She rode forward alone, her posture calm, her eyes steady. Not gratitude, not romance. Something heavier. "You stopped the fire," she said. "I stopped the lie," Eli replied. She studied him a long moment. The land remembers who protects it. She handed him something. An old Apache token worn smooth by time. A sign of debt repaid. "We will not ride against you," she said. "But others will." Then she turned back to her people, disappearing into the vastness like a memory the land chose to keep. Eli stood alone again, but he was no longer just a cowboy. He was a man marked by mercy, standing on ground that would test him one last time. The wind shifted, and somewhere beyond the horizon, something worse was coming.